future. But what if the very foundation of how we prepare is, well, a little bit off? Today, we're going to dig into a fundamental shift in education. It's all about moving beyond just passing tests and really focusing on building the skills to thrive in our complex, fast-changing world. Doesn't this just hit home? I mean, you master the formulas, you memorize all the dates, and then you step into your first real job. And suddenly, it feels like you have to learn a whole new language from scratch. You know, this isn't just a feeling. It's a fundamental disconnect between the classroom and the real world. So, this growing disconnect, it actually has a name: the real-world skills gap. Think of it as the chasm between what traditional education gives us and the abilities that are actually in demand right now. I mean, let's be real, the world is anything but static. Every single day brings new technologies, new challenges, new ways of working together. Simply knowing facts isn't the currency it used to be. The real value now lies in what you can actually do with those facts. So what's the solution? Well, according to some fascinating research from Chohan at the University of Lapland, it's all about focusing on what are called generic skills. Now, don't think of these as just subject knowledge. It's much more like a mental toolkit, a set of adaptable abilities you can carry with you to any job, any project, any challenge. The research really zeroes in on 3 core skills that are absolutely essential. First, adaptability. You know, the ability to pivot and roll with the punches. Then there's critical thinking, the power to analyze problems and find creative ways to solve them. And finally, communication, the skill to share your ideas clearly and work well with others. If you can get these 3 right, you're building a foundation for success in almost any field. So here's a good way to think about the shift. The old model, on the left, it was kind of like a library, focused on storing and retrieving information. But the modern need, over on the right, it's way more like a workshop. It's all about taking that information and using it to build, create, and solve. Okay, so if the what of learning is changing, that begs the question, what about the who? To bridge the skills gap, we need a new kind of educator. And this is where we see the rise of the facilitator. We're all used to the idea of a lecturer, right? The sage on the stage who stands at the front and delivers information. But a facilitator is totally different. They're the guide on the side. They're a mentor who helps you navigate your own path to discovery and figuring things out. So a facilitator's job is so much more than just teaching. They're basically architects of the learning experience. They guide individual student journeys, they help design a curriculum that puts skills first, and, this is crucial, they foster a safe environment where curiosity, collaboration, and even failure are seen as vital parts of learning. Now, this all sounds great in theory, but does it actually work in practice? Well, the study's findings give us a really clear answer. Let's look at learning by doing in action. The core method that facilitators use is simple, but it's incredibly powerful: learning by doing. This is not about burying your head in a textbook. It's about getting your hands dirty with project-based work that pulls learning out of theory and into a space that feels a lot more like real life. And this is exactly how those generic skills are forged. Students aren't just reading about media theory, they're actually building a real campaign, which forces them to communicate and be creative. They're not just solving equations on paper, they're collaborating in an engineering expo to solve tangible problems. Each project is basically a training ground for real-world competence. And you can just see the light bulb moment for students in their own words. One participant put it perfectly. They said, "This approach helped me apply theoretical knowledge in a real context." That's it. That's the bridge being built between knowing and doing. And it's not just the student's perspective. When the study asked the facilitators themselves, the consensus was overwhelming. You can see here that adaptability, critical thinking, and communication all scored right near the top in terms of importance. It just confirms that everyone involved is completely aligned on what truly matters. Of course, trying to shift a system as big and old as education is never simple. So how do we get over the hurdles that are bound to be there? Well, the research also lays out both the challenges and the solutions for making this shift happen. The study flags 2 major challenges. First, some faculty just might not be familiar with these new methods. The solution: get them into good training programs. Second, you often hear concerns about academic rigor. The best solution there is to just showcase the results. Let the successful case studies and positive student outcomes prove that this approach works. But here's the key. This can't just be a grassroots effort. For a facilitator-led model to really take hold, it needs serious institutional buy-in. We're talking about consistent investment in things like training workshops, having dedicated support teams for the faculty, and even online platforms for their ongoing development. So when you put all these pieces together, the skills, the facilitator, the hands-on approach, what does it all add up to? Well, it points toward a pretty powerful new vision for the future of education.
Ultimately, what we're talking about here is so much more than just a new way to teach. It's a blueprint for shaping a new generation of leaders, innovators, and problem solvers. People who are equipped not just with knowledge, but with the skills and the confidence to actually shape the future.
And this final thought from the study's author, Chohan, just brings it all home. The ultimate goal is preparing students not just for exams, but for the challenges and opportunities of the real world. The finish line isn't the final test. It's the starting line for a successful and impactful life. So it really leaves us with one powerful question to think about. What if the goal of education wasn't just to know, but to do? What could a whole generation of students, empowered with that kind of mindset, truly achieve? Thanks for watching The Explainer.